So I'm standing here high above Silicon Valley, and one of the subjects I love talking about is how this became Silicon Valley. I mean, at one point in time, it was just a whole bunch of apricot farms. So how did that become the tech hub of the entire world? And part of that is because of what's directly behind me, and that's Stanford University. See, Stanford University was founded on a land grant by Leland Stanford of about 8,000 acres. And it was pretty small at the time. They didn't need 8,000 acres, and they were cash-strapped, but land-rich. And they could have done one of a couple of things. They could have either started to try to sell some of that land off, which would have been a bad idea, or they could start renting it out. And that's actually exactly what they did with Stanford Shopping Center. That's been rented out there for a number of years. But even better than that, they had a brand new dean, and his name was Frederick Terman. And Frederick Terman had this interesting idea of a symbiotic relationship where he created the Stanford Research Park down over there and started giving tech companies 99-year leases. He was basically looking for tech companies that would hire some of their students and then maybe take some of that money back in. So they had this idea of this interesting cycle where you had Stanford students going out to start working at these companies, and these companies would then donate back to the company, and you'd end up having teachers that were encouraged to go ahead and branch out and start working for some of these startups. They ended up attracting companies like Shockley Semiconductor, which was in Mountain View, but then that ended up spawning off Fairchild, which ended up spawning off Intel. And you just had this interesting buildup of these tech companies right around this area. And of course, when you have that, what ends up following? A whole bunch of venture capital. So right north of the Stanford Research Park, you end up having Sand Hill Road, which is where all of the venture capitalists live. So that's one of the reasons why this ended up being the tech hub. They built off of each other.